Afternoon, everyone. It will take a minute for me to judge the correct distance from the microphone, so bear with. Welcome. We're going to get started today so that we make good use of our time. I'd like to introduce myself first. My name is Wendy Chase, and I am the program director for the MS MedSLP program. I have been here from the very beginning of this program, and it's been an absolute joy and privilege to watch it grow and build and be as innovative as it is with the curriculum. And we only get to do that because we have really outstanding students. So thank you for that, for sending them on over to us. I would like to very quickly introduce the faculty formally so that you can put a name with a face. So when they are talking about that Chase, I cannot believe it, that would be me. But I'd like the rest of the group to stand as we go along. So hop on up there, peeps. All right, so this is Dr. Lydia Koloff. She teaches the adult neuro. Continuum, thank you. You may be seated. And then we have Lauren Seamers, who teaches our method sequence. Thank you. We have Dr. Phil Sectum, who is all voice and swallow most of the time. Thank you. And then we have Lauren Murray. Stand up, Lauren Murray. You don't escape anything. Lauren is the clinical placement coordinator and might be the person who they say the most mean things about because she's the one that has to deliver the bad news if a placement falls through. So please be kind to her. All right, also on the lower level here today, we're going to give a quick shout out to Mr. Jeff Fisher, who is the head of the RMU Foundation. And graces us with his presence this evening. So thanks for coming, Jeff. This is the first one of these you've come to on the speech side. So we're going to set the standard for a rockin' good time. Unlike those stiff PTs, you know. Just kidding. Okay. So let's go ahead and get started. A few more introductions as we go along, but those are folks, the rest of these folks will be speaking a little bit, so they'll get their introduction in just a second. I want to start off tonight by talking directly to the students and the reason why you're here. You are here in this room now, holding on to a white coat that has your name on it, expressly to recognize what you've had to go through to get to this point. So in a lot of programs, the celebration is about going off campus and beginning a clinical side of your education. You don't have the luxury of waiting. You get started right away, and you've been in a clinical role. This ceremony for us marks a turning point towards moving into other work settings. But for us, it's more about recognizing the fact that you've completed 90% of the program. And you had to do it in a year. So all of the core curriculum is in this first year, and it takes an unbelievable amount of patience, organization, or friends with organization, family and friends with support, lots of supporting one another to remember to get things done, to find the better ways to do it, et cetera, et cetera. And it's a really tough balance on any given day. And I want you to know how much we respect what you have had to do to get here. It's not an easy road at all. The things that you need to juggle to get through this first year in the core curriculum. So I say to you, congratulations for allowing us to recognize what you've done. It means you've survived this far. But also thank you. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for being the people that you are, all different, all independent thinkers, all people that contribute to the whole. And that is so, so valuable. to us as a program, and I appreciate it. So, quick thank you to all of you, and if everybody would join me, they've worked really hard. Okay, so in terms of the formal ceremony this evening, we're going to start with a welcome from one of our illustrious C-suite residents over in the tower. So we have tonight speaking with us Dana Marsh. Now, Dana is the, and I have to say it on the program so I say it right, Vice President of Enrollment Marketing and Communications. And she's been with RMU for a while now, but this is the first MedSLP event that she's been at. What I want you to recognize about Rocky Mountain University is that there will always be a C-suite representative. They're connected. This is an organization that is like this, pancaked along, and very direct in terms of the communication and the support. So Dana is here to remind you all that you matter from a university perspective. So Dana, if you would come on up.
I'm super short, so good afternoon. To the families, faculty, and friends who made the time today to join us today. And most of all, to the 22 women of Cohort 9, thank you for letting me be part of this ceremony tonight. President Martin sends his warmest congratulations. He's proud of you and genuinely sorry to miss this milestone. He asked me to stand in his place, and for that, I am incredibly privileged. A white coat is a strange and wonderful thing. It is just fabric until the moment it is placed on your shoulders. Then it becomes a promise. When you put on this coat, you are telling every patient you will ever meet, I have prepared for you. I will be careful with you. You can trust me with something deeply personal that matters. And in medical speech language pathology, what you're trusted with, is about as human as it gets. See, now the microphone's in my way. You will help a stroke survivor find their words again. You will help a father swallow safely so that a meal doesn't become a danger. You will help a child understand for the very first time. Communication and the simple act of eating, these are not small things. They are how we connect, how we are known, how we stay in a world with the people that we love. To protect them is to improve the human condition in the most intimate way there is. Here's what strikes me about Cohort 9. You didn't wait for a coat to get started with your career. You've been working with real clients since your second week. You've spent Valentine's Day with residents of a nursing home. You ran a Thanksgiving meal drive. You provided needed care at health fairs and in schools. And you gave your time to children facing the hardest thing they could ever face. That is loving and lifting. That is the whole of what RMU asks of us. And you were living it before any of you were handed a white coat. You've done it, most of you while carrying everything else, like jobs, families, children who needed you at bedtime, 1,000 quiet sacrifices no one else will ever see. And somehow you did it together. You became the kind of cohort that shows up as one. Even, I'm told, dressed head to toe as a certain faculty member for Halloween. Yeah. You've earned this in the hard hours too. The cadaver lab, the swallow study boot camps, the simulations that studied your hands. And this fall, you scatter into your externships, a new setting each semester, a wider and wider circle of patients who will need exactly what you've spent this year building, the clinical and the human aspects of healthcare. So wear your white coat well. On the days that it feels most heavy, remember that the heaviness is the weight of someone trusting you. And remember who you already are, 22 people who lift the patient, the person in front of them. That's the work. That's the whole point. So, congratulations, Cohort 9. Go and improve the human condition, one voice, one word, and one person at a time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dana. All right, the next component here is where a faculty member addresses the students, and that's a faculty member that the students themselves have chosen. Now, last year we had Dr. Sectum as the chosen speaker, and it may be that this cohort heard how long he went on and made a choice. However, I choose to believe that it's because LB always has something interesting to say, and when she doesn't have anything interesting about you guys to say, she'll tell you a funny story about her kids. All right, so we'll see if we get any of that tonight. But anyway, I'd like to introduce LB Stonier, who is the Director of Clinical Education and in charge of coordinating and processing all of the ways in which clinical education is delivered in our program. Welcome, LB.
What's up, everybody? I have to tell you that this is my biggest nightmare. This is the worst. And I have said this in class before. I'm an introvert. I could live my life happily, ignored in a corner. And so to stand and speak into a microphone in front of all of you is absolutely horrible. This is compounded by probably the worst case. I have an inhuman amount of tension in my face on a regular basis, regardless of what the emotion is. My children, here's my story. My teenagers have a shared album with pictures of my grumpy face while I'm doing whatever I'm doing. And most of them look like I have just exhumed a body that I'm gonna carry across a desert or something. It's just, the disgust is really great. So just know, if I look like I am not having a great time, it's because I'm terrified, but also this is my natural state of being. So I am surprised that I was the faculty choice this year. And I wish that you had chosen Dr. Sectum, because I always enjoy listening to what he has to say. So I don't know if I should apologize or warn you in advance, but I'm happy to share my thoughts with you. I will start out by saying that the faculty here, I shouldn't say the core faculty, the original faculty, when the program started, were all recruited. None of them were looking for positions. I love Dr. Sectum's story. For you students, if you haven't heard it, you should ask him about how he ended up here at Rocky Mountain University. Most of us were perfectly happy in positions that were very fulfilling, in settings that we loved, with colleagues and coworkers that had become families. And each of us, in our own way, were called to be here somehow. And we're still here because of you. So thank you for the opportunity to talk with you today, to share some thoughts with you. It's a really meaningful invitation because we are here because of you. This is not the most fun job because it's really difficult, because it's hard for you. Lots of us would probably be a little more wealthy if we were billing for our clinical services elsewhere. And that's a very fulfilling thing to do. We're excited for you to be able to do that, but we're also excited for us to be able to be here to teach and support you. So thank you for your faith in us, even though you have probably come up with your own curse words to reference all of us and the things that we make you do. We know that, it's okay. Just don't tell us about it. So I don't know if all of you know, some of you probably do, I'm also a PhD student. I'm in a program studying language and literacy. And I want to talk with you. I love a good analogy. So I'm going to give you an analogy today, and hopefully you students will be able to see where the parallels are as I line them up. One of the projects that we have been working on is investigating whether or not you can diagnose dyslexia in children that are too young to learn how to read. So dyslexia is a reading disorder. It seems absolutely ludicrous to think that you could diagnose a reading disorder before a child has ever actually received any instruction in reading. And it turns out, actually, it's probably not as ridiculous as we think. Because we've seen some really interesting things over the last few months as we've been conducting this investigation. And I want to talk to you a little bit about how we have been doing this thing and what we have been finding. Several months ago, I traveled with my research team to Connecticut, and we spent several days testing hundreds of preschoolers, 3- and 4-year-olds, which was a nightmare all by itself because it was also at the beginning of the school year, and the germs and the snotting was incredible. But we went and we implemented this testing protocol that we had developed, and we saw some really interesting things. So this was the major part of the testing that we did with these kids came in 3 parts. So we first went and we did a baseline assessment. We wanted to know, what do you know right now, today, before we start trying to teach you anything? And then we did a teach and response cycle where we gave them some instruction, and then we practiced it with them, and then we asked them to do it by themselves and show us what they could do. So one of the things that we taught them in the instruction cycle was how to read really simple words, and one of the words was mop. So we had the letters out and these little tiles, and we showed them how to pair the letter with the sound and then put it together to make the word mop, and there was a picture of the word so there was the word mop and a picture of a mop, and then we would put the letters together and say, what does this word say? And they would look, I would say, about 25% of the kids, it was a surprising number of the kids, when we asked them, what does this word say, they would look at the picture of the mop and then say, eater, eater, because that's what a mop says when you use a mop. And it was a really interesting thing to see, oh, okay, so how are they putting together this information about what a word says or what an object says? And bless their little hearts, it was incredible. There were a lot of children, many, many children, that had never been formally instructed in how to read. And we were able to tell pretty quickly whether or not they were going to go into this kid is going to definitely need some help category, or this kid is probably going to do really well with learning how to read category. So that whole exchange took about 10 minutes-ish with each kid, and hundreds of them later in looking at our data, there were some really significant takeaways that we had. And I'm going to talk to you about 3 of them. So the first takeaway that we had was that the baseline information from the very first test that we did with them was not very helpful. So when we sat down with them and started asking them questions about what are these letters, what sounds do they make, how do you spell whatever the word is, it was a really terrible measure of their actual capability. It actually only measured whether or not there was any previous exposure to that kind of teaching. Some of the kids had been in preschool for months, and they were able to repeat some facts that they had learned. Other kids were in a classroom for the very first time. There were kids that were learning English for the first time, and so they were all over the place. And it told us next to nothing about what their actual potential was. It only measured where they had been. So we knew that we needed to look a little bit further, obviously. So one of the other big takeaways that was not a new finding for our team, it just reinforced some things that we already knew, was that when it comes to skills like learning how to read, it's not enough to just know what they need to learn. It's not enough to know, well, they have to learn all of the names of the letters, and then they have to learn all of the sounds that each of those letters make. the way that you teach that information is possibly even more important than what you teach. That kind of instruction has to be systematic, explicit, meaning it needs to be very direct and very specific. And it needs to be cumulative. And there has to be a practice component. It's not enough for them to look at a teacher or listen to a teacher while the teacher explains, this is how you read a word. They have to actually go through the process of doing the thing that they are being instructed to do. So using the skill in the context of high quality instruction is incredibly important for learning how to read. And after that, and in addition to that, these two things go together. It is really, really important to pay attention to how the learner responds to the instruction in real time. So in our testing, we were teaching them to do specific things like we wanted them to learn that the shape of the letter M, when you see that, you should trigger the sound It should remind you that that's what that sound makes. And so through that, we had, as part of our assessment, an entirely separate scale where we were just looking and rating these children on how quickly are they picking up this instruction, and how easily do they take that information that we have taught them and use it in a brand new context. So we called that modifiability and transferability. And it was really interesting to see how that went. So based on how the child was responding to the instruction, we found that that was a much better predictor of what their reading capabilities were going to end up long term. So coming in, it didn't matter really what they knew. We knew that we had to give them really great instruction. We had to give them an opportunity to practice. Hopefully you can see where this is going, right? We had to give them an opportunity to practice, and then we had to pay attention to how quickly are they learning? How useful is this information to them? Can they retain it? And can they apply it to a brand new context, a brand new word that they hadn't practiced with us? And in the course of 10 minutes, we found that that was one of the biggest predictors of how they were going to perform with their reading skills over time, was simply what their response to the learning environment was. So we call that dynamic assessment in our field, that teaching and response cycle. This is a very messy process, as you have all had some practice with. Probably in your first month when we said, well, you got to do some dynamic assessment, and I'm sure many of you were thinking, I hate you because I don't know what that is, or I know what that is, but I don't know what that means right now. Dynamic assessment is messy because it combines instruction and treatment with assessment. You have to do both things at the same time. You're teaching, and you're also looking to see, is this helping, is this not helping? And then making a rapid decision about what do I have to change right now to help this person learn better and learn faster. So the dynamic assessment was probably understanding that dynamic assessment is the most effective way to decide whether or not the instruction is effective for a person is probably the biggest takeaway that we had from that investigation. And unfortunately, now it's turned into 16 other things, like a dandelion blowing into the wind, and I may never graduate. But anyway, so our original question, can you use dynamic assessment to diagnose dyslexia in 3- and 4-year-olds? We don't know yet, it's still early. My magic 8-ball says, signs point to yes, I think that it's true. But what I can tell you is that what we learned about that, our understanding that we came away from that study with is not limited to dyslexia. Hopefully, you can all see exactly where, like I said, where I'm going with this. When the thing that we care about is how well you are learning, instead of what you already know, the same principles apply. It doesn't matter if you're 3 or 23, if you're learning how to read, or if you're learning how to do a modified barium swallow, the process matters. You all came in here into this program with your own baseline knowledge. Some of you had more undergraduate coursework or different undergraduate coursework, some of you had been an SLPA, some of you had been research assistants, but that only helped you get into the program. It tells us very little about where you go throughout your program and beyond. Where you go depends more on what happens after you get here. Just like good readers, we know that strong clinicians are built from the same kind of systematic, explicit, cumulative instruction with ample opportunities to put it into practice. How many of you, not for the students, how many of you here supporting a student have heard the student you are supporting complain about clinic? Raise your hands. Don't be shy, because we know it should be all of you. How many of you students have complained to each other about clinic? How many of you have said things like, they told me to do this and I have no idea how I'm supposed to do it? Show of hands. How many of you have been in the classroom and been asked a question and then thought, was I here that day? I don't know if I was here. I'm not sure if, are you calling it something else? I feel that way still sometimes when Dr. Sectum starts talking. And I have experience in the same areas of the field as he does. So occasionally, I can't believe I'm admitting this right now. Occasionally, I'm like, just keep. I need him to keep talking so that eventually he'll give me a term that I can latch onto and like connect it to the other information that I understand. But we've all been there, right? We've all been. We've done our clinical time and suffered like you've suffered. So it's understandable, but. Again, the instruction, we know that it has to follow those rules. It has to be explicit, it has to be systematic, it has to be cumulative, and there has to be a production component. You have to actually implement it. We ask you to do that immediately, which sometimes seems not fair, except that we know from the data and from the outcomes that the learning is better when it happens that way. It's really uncomfortable for us, believe it or not, to make you do things that are going to cause you emotional distress. Most of the things that we ask you to do cause emotional distress, but we know that it's better on the other side, so we do it. But that's where the dynamic assessment comes in. If we don't see you using the information, if we don't see what the learning looks like in real time, we can't adjust the instruction. So, over the last year, you've all been engaged in, I wrote this, just so you know, I was very prepared. You've been engaged in, these are the words that I wrote, rigorous, exciting, often painful, and brutal. If you know Devin Gear, our resident expert in occupational therapy, that's her word. Brutal process of continual dynamic assessment. We've given you the instruction and watched as you've worked and occasionally suffered through using the information in real time in the classroom and in the clinic with your patients and sometimes with us as your standardized patients. We've seen you do that in simulation labs with high-fidelity mannequins, with Dr. Sectum's amazing voice acting skills. Probably needs a raise for that, actually, because it's amazing. And we've asked you to do that whether you felt ready or not. But through all of that, we were continually assessing, continually looking for signs of modifiability and transferability. And where has it gotten you? It's gotten you here, today, at the halfway point. You are here today because you've done it. I like to think of the white coat ceremony not as a celebration of, yay, you're halfway there, you've made it. This is a recognition, formal acknowledgement that you have done what we've asked you to do. You've built the foundation, painful as it was, lots of tears. We go through a lot of tissues in our program, lots of sweat, angst, anguish, but it hasn't all been terrible because you're here. You've had success, and more success is going to be coming. So today, we're here to recognize that you've built a solid foundation of knowledge, skills, attitudes, critical thinking. Dr. Chase likes to say clinical inquiry. You've done that, and you're ready to move forward into a new environment. Next semester, you'll be walking into rooms that you have been prepared to enter, and you have to remember that you're prepared to enter those rooms. You will meet patients that you weren't expecting, though. You will encounter situations that you may feel inadequate and insufficient in. And you'll be doing that with preceptors that don't know you, that don't know where you started, haven't seen you for the last year. But the baseline data doesn't matter because you've already surpassed it. Man, I hate you guys doing this to me. Had somebody else at graduation, it's horrible. Okay, anyway, your preceptors have also done it. They've walked where you've walked, and they've done the things that that you have also been asked to do. But they're still going to be horrible to you and push you past your comfort zone. They will make you do things that you feel like you are unprepared for. And then they're going to watch you, and they will reteach and teach you some more and ask you to practice and correct and ask you to do it again and again. And eventually, you will do that process by yourself. You won't have a facilitator to point out all of the things that you could be doing better. You'll do that for yourself, which is the point, because your learning is just beginning. Dr. Humbert was at our Hard to Swallow conference several years ago, and she had a great quote. She said that she doesn't like it when people say, I have 20 years of experience, because how do you know for sure? Do you really have 20 years of experience, or do you have 2 years of experience that you repeated 10 times? You should all have 20, 30 years of experience. Don't repeat the same thing over and over. Be a dynamic learner and dynamically assess yourselves. Teach, practice, reteach, and refine. That's the name of the game. That's this career forever. And it won't leave you, even if you retire, unfortunately. It will be so ingrained in your brain that you can't ever see things from outside of a clinician's perspective. That's not a bad thing. So, over the next 3 semesters, we want you to lean into the learning. Show your preceptors what you've shown us, but so much better, because you'll be there doing it in different settings. And then a year from now, we'll meet again in a ceremony similar to this, probably with Dr. Sectum speaking. Remember that when it's time for you to vote. And then, a year from now, we will celebrate not just your competence in your clinical foundation, but welcoming you to our field as colleagues. Lean into the learning. You have 3 semesters left. You'll do great. Thanks.
I think it was worth it just to watch LB sweat on that for you guys. Just saying. We love ya. And Dr. Sectum, you have a whole day of simulation lab at the hospital tomorrow to use your voice acting skills before anyone's going to think about a raise. Just saying. Okay. All right. If anybody wants to be a standardized patient and come have a tracheostomy tube implanted so that we can practice putting one-way speaking valves on you in the hospital, open to volunteers. All right. Anyway, thank you, Elby. Before we go too much further, because we want to move into the students portion where you guys support each other very explicitly, I do want to introduce for you Ms. Kristen Ipsen, who needs to stand up, who is another member of the faculty. Thank you. Because we did not get to her earlier, and I apologize for that. All right, and then I'm going to move on to say it's now time for Sophie. It's Sophie's show now. Sophie has been one of the most organized student leadership individuals that we have ever had in this program. She's set a bar that I'm pretty sure no cohort to come is going to beat. Sad for them, but also now permanently the one I'm going to say to them, call Sophie and see how you do this, because she's got this covered. So Sophie is going to present the student-led version of the remarks for tonight. So come on up, Sophie.
All right. Thank you for that introduction. introduction, Dr. Chase. And as mentioned, my name is Sophia Witcherly, and I'm so honored to be representing our cohort today. As my cohort knows, I tend to talk a lot, and apparently today is no exception. So I'm just going to take that as confirmation that I chose the right profession. In this program, we spend a lot of time learning to identify impairments through their signs and symptoms, and so that we can reach a diagnosis. So before I go any further, I would like to offer a few signs and symptoms that you may be a faculty member, family member, or friend of a speech-language pathology student. You may have had an oral mechanism or cranial nerve examination practiced on you, or along with that, been asked to repeat pataka as quickly and steadily as you can for 5 seconds. You may have heard the names Sir Swallows a lot, or Gary Glottis used in completely serious conversation. You may have agreed to let someone practice passing a camera through your nose, all in the name of education. You may have an awareness of every type of aphasia and dysarthria. You may have asked what we learned in cadaver lab and then immediately wished you had not. And you've probably heard some version of, I can't tonight, I have a client or homework or have to study. And if any of that sounds familiar, the diagnosis is clear. You have supported an SLP graduate student. Thank you so much for all of your patience, flexibility, and for embracing all the unexpected ways that this program became a part of your life too. If graduate school has taught me anything, it's that most people do not actually know what speech-language pathologists do. There is a very real chance that some of the wonderful family and friends here did not fully know what we did until someone they love joined this program. Honestly, some of you might still be finding out right now, and that's totally okay. We're used to explaining it. We've already learned that we're probably preparing for a lifetime of walking into, let's say, a hospital room, introducing ourselves as speech-language pathologists, and immediately hearing, but my speech is fine. And sometimes their speech is fine, but their swallowing may not be, their cognition may not be, their fluency, hearing, language, feeding, respiration, voice, or so many other things may not be. And that is what makes this field so meaningful and also so hard to explain at our family gatherings. There's so much more contained within this profession than the title alone could ever convey. So yes, we'll probably spend the rest of our careers explaining what we actually do, but that's part of the responsibility that we accept today. We're not only advocates for our patients, we're advocates for this profession, for its future, and for the people who need us even before they know what to call us. And now we're preparing to carry that responsibility into the next stage of our training. Soon, members of our amazing cohort will be heading into children's hospitals, acute care burn units, schools, inpatient rehabilitation, ENT clinics, skilled nursing facilities, and so many other places where SLPs are needed. After all of Dr. Sectum's hypothetical scenarios, I think we are prepared for just about anything the first day of our externship can throw at us. Some of us may walk into an externship convinced that we're one kind of SLP, only to leave realizing we belong somewhere completely different. And that's okay. That's part of the point. This next year isn't just about proving what we know, it's about learning where we're challenged, where we grow, and where we may belong within the profession. Because no matter where we end up, speech-language pathologists are needed everywhere. This time next year, we will be preparing for graduation, hopefully celebrating passing the praxis and getting ready for clinical fellowship positions. But today, we get the opportunity to pause and look around at all of the many people who helped us get here. The faculty who prepared us, the family and friends who experienced graduate school right alongside us, and the people who first showed us why this work matters. I know that every incredible woman in this cohort, has a why, a person or experience that made this work personal and showed them the difference it could make. So sorry. Some of those people are here with us today, and Others may never know the impact that they truly had on our lives or our story that had guided us into this profession. Either way, we honor them today too, because part of their impact is reflected in every person that's sitting before you. Whew, okay. As we move into externships and eventually into our careers, I hope we carry those people with us. Let them remind us that behind every diagnosis, assessment, and recommendation is a whole person whose priorities, fears, and hopes matter too. We should never become so focused on solving the problem that we forget the person who has to live with the solution. We don't have every answer yet, and we're not supposed to, but we're ready to step into the room, learn from the people we serve, and become the clinicians that we've spent this year preparing to be. So thank you, and congratulations, Cohort 9.
If I could just reinforce that Sophie and none of the rest of you should ever apologize for being the deeply caring and passionate people that you are. That is part of what we treasure about who you are. And I have to tell you, characteristic of a speech pathologist. So welcome to the group. We care a lot. All right, so it's time to have some white coats put on. I'm going to go a little off script here because we have a little extra step that I'm going to do. And we're actually going to ask Dr. Sectum and Dr. Koloff to come on up and stand here at the front. Do they walk on the floor, or do you want me to have them come up the step? Up? Okay, you tell me. Yes, I don't want to present a tripping hazard to anybody in heels. So I don't wear them, so I don't have to worry about that. But all right, so they're going to be helping you with your hood. But more importantly, we have left it to Sasha Herget, who is our illustrious program coordinator, and I would like her to stand up and be recognized with some applause right now, because this amazing professional is the glue to all things in our program. But she's going to be tasked with reading your names properly and exempting me from that responsibility, which I appreciate. So we're going to go ahead, and she's going to begin calling up, but we're going to have you go ahead and start the lineup process, orchestrated by Mercedes over there. Thank you very much. And we're going to get Sasha in place.
Thank you, Dr. Chase. Introducing our Cohort 9 white coat recipients. Adrian Ann Amaya. Rachel Boyer. Claire Dolphin. Mackenzie Drummond. Chloe Goodrich. Emily Harris. Jalen Helm. Sabrina Henthorn. Elizabeth Nielsen. Haley Humphreys. Morgan Hyde. Reagan Jasper. Avery Kuntz. Allison Link. Natalie Martin. Addison Nichols. Cora Truscott Nielsen. Marissa Ricks. Marin Vandigriff Crandall. Reese Weimer. Sophia Witcherly. Chloe Walker. One more round of applause for MedSLP Cohort 9.
Tall people. All right. Congratulations. You all look a little more uniform, which is not really what we're going for in our program, as we know, independent thinking all the way. But you do make a really, really professional site, and it's really heartening to watch you get to this stage. So thank you, and let's make sure we get a picture of this before they go anywhere. All right. It's time, though, for you to talk about who you want to be. What is it you want your professional career to be based on? So there's an oath and there's a mission that this group has created. It's built by the members of this cohort, and it will be led by the members of this cohort. And first up is Natalie Martin, who will lead everybody in the oath.
All right, I'm going to invite my lovely classmates to please stand and join me in reading the White Coat Oath. As a future speech-language pathologist, I will guided by the belief that every voice matters. I will advocate for the voices that go unheard, anchoring myself in the humanity I share with my clients. I will endeavor to be worthy of my clients' trust by recognizing their autonomy in my clinical decisions and honoring what matters most to them. I understand that meaningful care is strengthened by collaboration. I will remain curious, reflective, and adaptable as I work with other professionals, recognizing that each perspective strengthens the care I provide. I recognize that clinical knowledge is not gained from textbooks alone, and that my clients will be among the greatest teachers. I embrace the opportunity to walk alongside those I serve, knowing that every day is an opportunity to make a meaningful impact in their lives. I promise to treat every client I encounter in the future with the same passion, commitment, and enthusiasm I feel today. With gratitude and purpose, I dedicate myself to this profession, seeking not only to heal, but to uplift and empower those I serve. You may be seated.
this is where I start to get a little teary, because you're the future. And when you write those statements, and that's crafted by the student group, and what they are committing themselves to, yeah, makes me really proud and really hopeful for the future. But let's continue the fun with the mission, which Reese Weimer is going to come up and lead us through.
Gotta use that pocket already. Okay. Thank you. All right, so as Wendy mentioned, in preparation for this ceremony, our cohort was asked to create our own mission statement. And then a mission statement is a guiding declaration that defines who we are and what we stand for. This is ours. Communication is more than speech and language. It is foundation for connection, self-expression, and meaningful participation in everyday life. We are committed to becoming compassionate, thoughtful clinicians who value connection, advocacy, and lifelong learning. Through our work, we seek to improve lives beyond the therapy room. We strive to provide collaborative, evidence-based care that supports communication, swallowing, and quality of life for those we serve. In every session, we bring empathy. In every plan, we seek dignity. And in every interaction, we recognize the resilience of each individual. We believe meaningful care is grounded in both clinical knowledge and human connection. Our goal is to help individuals build confidence, maintain autonomy, reconnect with others, and continue to grow across every stage of life. And then before we move on to our closing remarks that Wendy will be doing, we would like to acknowledge a few people. As a cohort, we wanted to take a moment to commemorate Wendy or Dr. Chase, for successfully defending her thesis. We know that getting a doctorate requires unwavering dedication, sustained effort, and deep commitment to advancing knowledge. Congratulations, Wendy. Okay, and then lastly, we would like to state our appreciation for Sophie. She has been an amazing president for our cohort and has shown great strength for advocating for us and supporting each of us with genuine care and dedication. Thank you so much, Sophie. You truly have been just amazing. Thank you.
Reese, thank you for leaving out the part that was 40 years in academia in the making. I think my colleagues from the University of Connecticut right now are like, really? She finally got that thing done? All right. It's time to wrap up. We've had a lot of talk, we've had a lot of words, and hopefully a lot of feelings. I want to highlight just a couple of the words. Serve. You heard it a lot. Serve is the essence of what you do. You serve one another. You serve your clients. You serve the community. You have all demonstrated exceptional service so far and the potential to impact so many lives. And as you all mentioned, even in the tiniest of ways, a smile, a pat on the shoulder, a positive word, a redirection, all go a long way to supporting someone who is in a situation that they did not choose. All right. Okay. Before I say goodbye and best wishes to you, formally, let's go back to you guys for putting up with all of the things that you've put up with, for allowing us to terrorize, traumatize, and otherwise distress your families and friends that are in this cohort, all with the absolute best intention of creating people who now look and act like this and are going to carry the future in this profession. We appreciate it. So as a program, we say thank you to you. You're not done yet. You're not out of the woods. But now at least some of the fun that you'll get to hear about, maybe not always positively, will be from other people than just the faculty. They'll be at the placement, they'll be in the facilities that they're in. So we get to share some of the burden of traumatizing these individuals as they go forward. This is such a meaningful place for them to understand the power that they have. And getting out into these settings will allow them to experience that. I will honestly say that they still don't have any idea how much they know or the superpowers that they own. That's going to come with time. We can see it. So congratulations. Best wishes, but more, please don't stop calling us. Going away in the second year makes it harder for both of us to stay connected and to let you know that what you need, if it's something from one of us, is still available to you. We don't know that unless you reach out and tell us. We want to answer the questions. We want to talk you through it. And sometimes, even in the new situations, you may just need, nope, it's going to be okay. A little validation goes a long way. LB is really good at working with her students from the beginning and saying, do you just need some validation today? I can do that. But we're still here, and we will be following what's happening and wondering what you're doing and hearing stories about what you're up to regularly. It's a small world, speech pathology. Doesn't matter where in the country you are. But I have every conscious and unconscious feeling that you will make the differences you're made to make, even still in the role of student. So, congratulations to all of you. Thank you to all of you. And thank you to our distinguished guests and the people that help run this process. IT, you're over there hiding behind the wall, but they're there. And our events individuals department who put this together. So thank you for all that you do to support the program. And Dustin, I don't know what department you officially belong to. What's it called now? Marketing? Okay, Dustin's from marketing with the pictures. Take advantage of him. Please come up and say hello to us. We would love to meet you. It's interesting to us to see the faces that are behind some of the stories we hear on the other side. You're not exempt from being the subject of fodder. And if you would all just stand up so that the faculty can applaud you one last time as we wish you good graces in your next step. And because you're graduate students, I know you'll now want to be the first in line to go get a cookie. So go ahead and start the process if you would, and thank you all for coming. Oh, yeah, sorry, Dustin needs to do his job. Everybody up, the rest of you, go get a cookie.